Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our scholarly examination of Alien Worlds, the Bruce Jones written and edited anthology from Pacific Comics and from the early to mid 80s. We're up to number 7 here, and we start off with a pretty nice cover by Joe Chiodo, who did the very first cover of Alien Worlds. By the way, this is the very last issue from Pacific Comics. The next issue, Eclipse Comics will take over. Very sad to me because I loved Pacific Comics. One of the best comic companies of the 80s. They only lasted maybe 2 years, but they put out some of the best shit in the 80s. So we have a little inside front cover introduction about, or a little article about William F. Nolan. He's the science fiction writer who wrote Logan's Run. I don't know what else he did. Not much as far as renowned science fiction. I don't even think Logan's Run was renowned science fiction. It just was made into a movie, so everyone knows it. But this is the first time Alien Worlds got a licensed a story. They're adapting a story by William F. Nolan. And there's a picture of the guy. So that story is The Small World of Louis Tillman. And I think Richard Corben, I assume, just adapted this himself. Took the story and just broke it down into panel form. Because it doesn't say Bruce Jones' name anywhere. So this is one of the few times Bruce Jones doesn't write a story in Alien Worlds. So nice to get Richard Corben. Look at this. I've never seen Corben colored like this. It's kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It's not my favorite color by Richard Corben. But we start off, it says post-apocalyptic world. And did I say the title? The Small World of Louis Tillman. And we see this guy. He's foraging for food. Goes into this destroyed supermarket. Finds some canned food. And all of a sudden he gets attacked. And this person hits him on the head with a pipe. He throws him to the ground. And it's this woman here. And he basically is just like, I won't hurt you. Here, even take my knife. I want you to trust me. Because this guy's so lonely. He's been very lonely. He's been all alone. And all of a sudden they hear this noise. And he said, they've heard us. Quick, the rear door. And they run out into the alley. They make it to his little hidey hole. He lives in the sewers. At first she's kind of surprised, but he's actually got like this nice little shack down there. Looks like it has all the comforts of home. And they introduce each other, exchange stories about what they did before the apocalypse, and then we find out what happened. Earth, a few years ago, Earth was invaded by these alien creatures from another solar system. And this guy has a theory that because we reached the moon, they figured we'd reach the stars someday. So they came to make sure we'd never get there. Kind of like a preventive warfare. She tells him there's this thing she's been planning for a while, but she couldn't do it alone. He's just so happy to have someone around. He's been like going crazy being alone. So they go out into the city. She tells him there's an old hilltop house with an attic full of books. And she says 2 of them have been going there every day. They're genuinely curious about our world, the way it used to be. These books can be a bridge to them, the 2 of them, to teach them, humanize them. We'd have to carry them off, away from the others. But basically we could show them that humanity is worth saving and to stop killing us. And so they make it to the house. And they go inside. There's all these books. And they make love. They kind of fall asleep. When they wake up, they hear noises. And he says, get the chloroform ready. Now. And when they round the corner, it's these 2 little kids. Human kids. And they can't believe it. They're like, we're friends. Don't be afraid. We're here to help you. And one of the kids is like, "Mama, Mama," and hugs her. He's so sweet. One of the kids is like, "Space people, they come down from sky. They kill mommy, my daddy." And he tells him that they killed all the adults and children over 5. Their plan was to keep us from ever going into space, to turn Earth savage. So they happily walk off with the kids. And she's very optimistic. We can change things, help more of them, so they'll help others. But then one of the kids grabs the book and he says, "Pokey, think fast." The other kid grabs the knife out of the woman's hand and he pierces the book in midair. And the woman says, "Now listen, you kids, we won't put up with..." And then Pokey stabs her, slices her. And he says, "We know you come soon, silly teacher. No gun now, no tunnels to hide in." And then all of a sudden, these savage little fuckers come out of the woodwork and they're completely surrounded. This story totally reminds me of it would be in Slow Death. And not just because it's drawn by Richard Corben. I guess that's a perfect choice for it. Good, just totally seems like it could have fit very well into an issue of Slow Death Underground sci-fi comic. Oh, this next one's pretty bad. It's a Small Change with art by Brent Anderson. And Brent Anderson's not the greatest artist, but in the 84 when this comic came out, he was okay for a Marvel artist. He did Kazar, I think, at the time. And he could do like kind of that Neil Adams knockoff style. That's what he was known for. But this is terrible art. Really bad colors too. Just very unappealing, this art. Luckily, it's only 2 pages. This kid bets these other kids that he can throw this frisbee really far. They take the bet. He does it. Not only does he throw the frisbee really far, but the frisbee goes boomerangs around this tree and comes back to his hand. So all the kids are totally impressed. They give him the money. And then we see the frisbee hovering. It's really a tiny UFO. This little alien comes out. And he says, "What's the take?" "2 lousy bucks." And the alien says, "Cheapskates." Just like trying to be a cute little gag. It's pretty dumb. Kind of a waste of 2 pages. I guess I've seen worse, but not very good. This one's a very complicated sci-fi story. It's almost like a mystery. It all fits. And it has art by Gray Morrow. And it's pretty nice. But, God, yeah, Gray Morrow wasn't nearly as good in the 80s as he was in the, in the 70s. He did some amazing, brilliant stuff in the 70s and 60s. But he's definitely, his craft isn't as good as it was. So we see this couple. Terry is the woman and Jerry is the man. Terry and Jerry. And Jerry is narrating in these captions. And basically we find out that we don't really know what's going on, but apparently they killed her husband, this old guy. The doc, they call him. But they're not in a good way. This little installation on this planet is getting colder and colder. And there's a spaceship just like 50 feet away from them, all warm and ready to go, take them off the planet, but they can't reach it. The planet's so cold. And they kind of foreshadow the reveal at the end. Because he says, "I look at the doctor's diary on the desk, and grinned in sardonic defeat." So he reminisces back to when they first landed on the planet. This planet's very weird. Every 4 weeks, it changes seasons. So it'll be just for 4 weeks, it's beautiful paradise planet, 70 degrees every day. And then instantly, for 4 weeks, it's sub-zero, just totally frozen. And it's so cold that you can't even go outside. You'll just die. You'll freeze to death. Unless you've got, protective gear. So this whole crew landed with Dr. Wheatley in charge, his young wife, and then all these other people. And, of course, Jerry. They are expecting to be greeted by the people who manned the installation before them. They're there to relieve them. But nobody comes out. They get into the space station, and it's totally empty. or I'm sorry, the installation. And they're like, what the hell happened? Everyone's split up and go through the installation. Jerry takes the chance to make a pass at Jerry. And she says, I'm married. I can't do that. And the doctor calls, says, come here. And they find this skeleton. So he finds this videotape of the guy who ran the mission, before they got there. He says, 63rd day, I buried Fulton this morning. He's the last of them. Still have no idea what the creature is. But one thing for certain, it's invisible. So everyone starts getting to work, trying to figure out what happened. But the monster never attacks. So Jerry finally gives in. Damn it. Terry finally gives in to Jerry's advances and they become lovers. Eventually, Jerry is actually like, we should poison the old man and put this poison in his coffee. And she doesn't really want to do it, but she is fed up with the old geezer. She has this rant here. She's like, Latin, Latin all day long. Reading Latin books, listening to Latin tapes. If I hear another word of Latin, I'm going to scream. And then we hear a scream. And it is now winter on the planet. And when they go outside, they see this guy Fields. And he's, in this parka, this furry parka that's in the supply room for them to use. And he's completely stripped to the bone. So now the doctor is just like, just the way it's completely stripped to the bone, maybe it's like some kind of flesh-eating virus, like a germ. He's like, whatever the case is, we got to get out of here. Everyone start packing, and he sends 2 of the guys to go out into the cold and get the spaceship all warmed up and ready to go. So right when they were about to return, one guy gets there like maybe half a minute before the other guy. And right when the other guy's about to reach the door, he's attacked. And he's just going, no. So the doctor has him bring the corpse to the lab. He's going to study it and see what the hell's going on. He realizes it's not a germ. There's digestive juices and the blood of some large animal on it. So maybe it is this invisible monster. It only seems to attack on the outside. And his wife says, why don't they attack in the summer season? Perhaps there's a clue there, he says. So they're in the supply room, and Jerry kind of figures out, he says, what if the creature wasn't invisible at all? Well, what if it had been right here inside the complex with us all along? And then this other guy says, I'm leaving. I'm getting to that spaceship. I don't care what the hell you guys are doing. And as soon as he walks out the door, the supposed invisible monster attacks him again. And Jerry realizes finally, the creature is the parka, the woolen parka. It's actually a kind of plant life, like almost like a Venus flytrap. So when you put it on, it eats you. But they still are confused about, like, how come it didn't attack him inside? So the generator goes out. They're going to freeze to death in a day or two if they don't figure out a way to get to the spaceship. And then all of a sudden, Doc Whitfield shows up. He's got a gun on him. And he figured, through his research, he found out that the creatures can only harm you when they're active. They have 4 dormant periods every day, at which time they're not only harmless, but they'll keep you quite warm as well, warm enough to reach the ship. And he knows what those dormant periods are. That's why one of the guys died going out to the ship and one didn't. The other guy got home, or whatever, got back to the installation, took off his jacket just in time during the dormant period. And the reason why he's got a gun is because he's known about their affair the whole time. And he orders them to put on the fur coats so it can look like an accident. But then all of a sudden he keels over, and Jerry tells Terry that he poisoned his coffee, which saved their lives. So they're like, oh my God, but the secret of the dormant periods dies with him. And Jerry realizes, damn it, Terry realizes. She says his diary, he puts everything in his diary. I've seen him. I'll bet the answer's in there. Let's hurry. And then we come back to that first page, and they're just holding each other to keep warm and just in defeat. They're just, because it turns out the big joke is that his diary is written in Latin. And so the only thing that could save them, the information, is they don't know how to read it. Very perfunctory art. Also, once again, very dull colors. Just greens and oranges and lots of grays and browns. Kind of boring. Oh, but this makes up for it. This is amazing. This is Ride the Blue Bus. And it's art by George Perez. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, wow, George Perez did a lot of stuff. But when you look back at his mainstream career, he rarely inked himself. A couple of years ago, I reread all of my new Teen Titans. I've had them since I was a kid. I never really reread them. I thought I liked them, and I wanted to make space. I was like, I'll read these again. I figured I'd probably like them. They were terrible, by the way. But also, surprisingly, the art's not very good. It's George Perez is doing fine, but this guy, Romeo Tangal, inks almost every issue. And man, he just really puts the kibosh on what George Perez could do. There's one issue of New Teen Titans that's inked by Perez, and you would not believe the difference. It is like some of the best superhero art I've ever seen. But every other issue, because that Romeo Tangal guy, you'd never know. I mean, I loved those comics when I was a kid. I thought they were good superhero comics, but Perez was really covered up by that guy. This is all the rare time when Perez inks himself, and man, this is some nice stuff. I mean, just the amount of detail. I think later on in his career, they finally gave him inkers that could keep up with him. But for the most of his career, it never looked like this. Look at all this devastated house, every little detail of just all this crap in there. So basically, we're in a post-apocalyptic world. There's this little kid named Toby, and he lives with his sister and his mother and his grandfather. It's everyone in this little town who's alive. They're basically dying. Everyone's got cancer. There's radioactivity everywhere. But for some reason, Toby is perfectly healthy. He's got perfect skin. You know, his hair isn't falling out. His gums aren't bleeding. It's inexplicable. And because of that, his family kind of resents him. I mean, they're not in the best mood. No, everyone's pretty grumpy in this world. But his grandfather, particularly, just really resents the fact that he's healthy. He's like, it doesn't make sense. How come he doesn't have bleeding gums? How come his hair's not falling out? He seems to resent the shit out of him. So apparently every day this blue bus drives by their house. And every day this kid runs out and asks for a ride. And, you know, his family says, that's only for rich people. And you can tell they're not rich. They're very poor. Like pretty much everyone in this world is poor. His poor little sister looks like she's 50 or 60. Just ravaged by radiation. So once again, while eating breakfast, the blue bus comes by. He hears it, and he runs outside. How about a ride? And it just drives right on by, just like every day. His friend Juke shows up, his best friend. And it's weird in this world. It's just like people just die so often. So it's just like not even big news. Jukas is like, hey, Toby, did you hear the English teacher died last night? And Toby says, cancer, huh? Well, I was flunking English anyway. All of a sudden, they hear a gunshot. Toby runs back to his house, and the grandfather has blown his head off with a shotgun. Just to show like how harsh this world is. The mother isn't crying or anything. She's just pissed off. She's like, damn old fool, couldn't gut it out with the rest of us. Had to go the coward's route. Who's going to help me with my chores now? I don't know why these people don't all blow their heads off. It's a pretty horrible world. Once again, runs out to the blue bus that drives on by. Juke shows up again and says, you got to stop waiting for that bus. You got to think about the future. And Toby agrees. And he says, I'm not waiting for the blue bus no more, Juke. Just like you said. So the next morning, it's breakfast. They hear the blue bus and Toby doesn't care. But then the mother looks out the window and she says, Lord Almighty, the bus stopped right in front of our house. And Toby walks out to it. And the door opens and it's this perfectly healthy guy. And he says, come on in. You don't need a fare. It won't be necessary. All the windows are black. And as soon as they start driving, all of a sudden they come to life. They're like hologram view screens, showing the world the way it was, how beautiful it was. Trees, and Toby's just freaking out. He's never seen anything like this. But then I like this, how they show us what they're really driving through. This just total devastated wasteland. And the guy tells Toby is that you don't need a fare to ride the bus. All you need is a healthy body and the will to live. There's a whole group of us waiting up north. Will you join us? Will you help us rebuild the world? I like the way Toby says, what about Ma and Sissy? And the driver doesn't say anything. And Toby doesn't need an answer. He realizes because he's like, they're going to be dead in 3 months probably, like everyone else. So he drives off to the north to join the few survivors who aren't mutated and dying. I don't quite understand why this whole expensive hologram thing is necessary, especially in a world that obviously doesn't have enough resources. But I'm just being nitpicky. But really nice George Perez art. Look at the detail on that face there. Yeah, I wish George Perez inked himself more. It's way better. So there you have it, Alien Worlds number 7. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.